Welcome to The Shrewdness. We are so excited about this baseball-focused endeavor. As teased in prior episodes, we are doing 15 to 20-minute primers for each MLB team to prepare you for this 2025 season, to help you with your fantasy baseball drafts and future bets, or simply to improve your knowledge as the season begins. From the projected starters to the prospects, we will touch it all and give our shrewd takes on the key to their success. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy the show.
Hey, Shrewdness fans. Welcome to the next clip in our Major League Baseball series. I'm going to have Lou introduce our next team.
I gotcha. So our goal, again, was to come up with snippets for every team. Being fans, it can be sometimes hard to track all the teams out there. Most people have their teams, and they don't necessarily go through and track everything else. What we've come up with are small, relatively well put together, hopefully, processes where we give you some updates to see how somebody did in the past and how somebody is hopefully projected to do this year, and give you some value when you're going into your fantasy, you're going into your gambling, or you just want to go into the season being a little bit more informed about what's going on with the different teams. So right now, Dexter's going to go through with Philadelphia.
All right, so we're going to go to Philadelphia Phillies, last year's NL East champs. But for those that watched baseball last year, you notice they fizzled to 500 ball in the second half after the All-Star break and limped out of the playoffs after losing to the Mets 3-1 as the second seed to the Dodgers in the last year's playoffs. So last year their Fangraph 85-77, Pacoda 84-78, actually got 95 wins. So all greens up top. If you took the over-unders on that, the over-under last year was 89.5 despite the 84 and 85 Fangraphs in Pacoda. So they even went over the over. So they had an exceptional year by all accounts. They are a veteran team built to win a World Series. So manager Rob Thompson has a team that has the second highest payroll in Major League Baseball, and they are stacked. They're built around basically two Cy Young pitchers and two MVP caliber players. So their main ones, obviously Bryce Harper is a stud. He's 32 now, though, so he's coming out. And for him, so a lot of people think that he actually has a World Series, but the Washington Nationals won the year after he signed with Philadelphia. So he still does not have one, even though Juan Soto does. So Bryce Harper still wants to win that title. He's a perennial beast, 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, 0-time World Series champ. But last year, he's still producing at a high level, 285, 373, 525 slash line with 30 homers and 85 RBIs in 145 games. So he's still showing up there, showing out. He's a first base now only, so he's not going to be ranging in the outfield anymore, despite he's got a cannon. He used to be in the leaders for assists out in the outfield, but he's now first base only. Their other MVP type caliber player is Trey Turner. So Gold Glove shortstop. He's signed through 2033. He had another humongous deal a couple years ago. And if you guys recall, as baseball fans, he struggle bust out the gate. And then once he clicked, he's been dominating ever since.
Wasn't
so he missed 40 games.
Yeah, the guy who had the World Baseball Classic, like U.S. big highlights a couple years ago. Wasn't that Trey Turner?
For Trey Turner, he was on that team for sure. Yeah, he was a big part of that.
He had a couple big home runs and kind of propelled him early on, I remember.
Yeah, he was flat out awesome. And that was the year he actually signed with the Phillies. So a lot of people think the World Baseball Classic kind of jacked him up at the beginning, but whatever. He ended up cooking right after that. But last year, he does have a little bit of injury history. So he had 40 games missed last year with a hammy. But all in all, he still finished 295 average, 338 on base, 469 slug, which for a shortstop, that's pretty awesome. So 21 homers, 62 RBIs, 88 runs, 19 stolen bases. He is all five tools. So he is a guy for fantasy purposes. He's still going to be up on the list. Their other main guys, they have a Royals scenario-ish. So JT Realmuto, their catcher, perennial all-star, likely going to get consideration for Hall of Fame votes. Just is awesome, but he's at the tail end of his career. He's only 33, but he looks like he's 43. So he's no longer elite. He's just not the same guy as 3 years ago. This is the last year on his deal. So hopefully he can deliver another good year. And just from liking baseball players and good people, JT Realmuto is one of those guys. He's been a stalwart for the Phillies for a decade and just been awesome. So for him, I mean, I don't really want Philly to win a World Series, but if so, it's not the worst thing to have Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto have a trophy in their case. The other parts of the lineup that are key.
Real quick, baseball reference. It's not close. He is not a Hall of Famer. Just going to throw this out there.
For JT Realmuto? I know, but just consider
close.
He's been arguably, it's not even close. It's been him and Salvi Perez for like 7 out of 9 years has been the best catcher in baseball. Most of the time, that's going to be a good consideration. But regardless, he's a damn good player, but he's definitely at the tail end. Their other big bopper is the king of swing himself, Kyle Schwarber. DH only now. He'll only fill a util spot on your fantasy team. But he and Pete Alonso, they are the only 2 players in the past 5 seasons that have hit 30 home runs each year. So he's just that guy. But his average, which is fun. We used to kind of make fun of 220 hitters, but hey, now you're okay. Hell, you can even bat 200 on the nose. We used to make fun of Mendoza. Mendoza would be welcomed in today's baseball.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. As long as he walks.
Stop. 347 OBP is elite. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care. As long as he gets those walks and he gets on base, then Bryce Harper knocks him in, and it's a heck of a lot more valuable.
I'm just saying, but it's just, he's not your prototypical leadoff hitter. And this year they're actually talking about switching him with Trey Turner, who is a more prototypical leadoff hitter, who also has an exceptional on-base percentage. So tit for tat, who knows? I think they would have put Schwarber in the middle of the order, though. So I think they're probably going to go Turner, Harper, maybe Castellanos, Schwarber, Baum, whatever. But it'll be kind of like that. The rest of their outfield, they brought in Max Kepler, who, again, having some Twins association here. He's been with the Twins his entire career. He's been really good, but the last couple of years, not so much, and been injured. He never really got to that next level. He was just average to above average outfielder, but played good defense. So they brought in Max Kepler to kind of fill the left field side for this year. He may be platooned if he cannot start hitting lefties, and he hasn't with the Twins. So that's one reason that he may get the lion's share of the platoon side, which is good. But at the end of the day, I don't know if he will be everyday left fielder unless he can start hitting those lefties.
I view Max Kepler as like a perennial B- type dude. Like he's pretty consistent.
That dude was a 1.0 WAR last year in 368 at bats with a 302 OBP, 8 home runs. That's cool for a left fielder. Yeah, he is at best a platoon guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can count on some contribution, but he's never going to be like a serious contributor compared to the others in that lineup.
Yeah, he's mostly a Band-Aid. So Philly this offseason, they did everybody for 1-year deals because they are so maxed out. So currently they're in the 4th luxury tax threshold. They have so much freaking money going into it. And they're paying 110% penalty on everything above 301. So they are not doing anything else. But the problem is they put so much money into 4 dudes that are all paid out until 2032, 2033, somewhere in there. They're just going to have to be careful with their cap for a while. But that's neither here nor there. Brandon Marsh is going to be in center field for the most part. Again, he gets platooned a lot too. He's an average bat, plays good D. He came over from the Angels a couple seasons ago. So he's the long, greasy-haired dude that looks like he walked out of a trailer. So that's Brandon Marsh, if you remember that guy. So he's not bad, serviceable. Nick Castellanos used to be awesome, and now he's still pretty decent, but he's still kind of a DH, except DH is full of Schwarber. So they got a lot of DHs on this team, and they got to put some of them in the field. So I think that's really one of the...
I just remember him as being a garbage plus third baseman for the Tigers. That's just how I remember Castellanos, but sure. He became a lot better, I know that.
Yeah, he became a lot better. So he kind of had some MVP votes for a couple seasons. And that's how he fleeced Philly into paying him so much money. But regardless, it's his last year of his deal. He is a liability in the outfield, but either putting liability Castellanos or liability Schwarber out there roaming around. And I think they've just kind of, whatever, at least you won't pull a quad. So Castellanos gets the lion's share of the time in the outfield. I think he has a little better arm too. Alec Baum, who when Lewis was living in Pennsylvania, this guy was playing just up the road. Because I remember wanting to go see a minor league game with him, but they were out of town that week. I was up there. But he's been a very good prospect and player for a very long time. He just never quite get over the hump, and he's not consistent enough for them to sign long term. So they did another 1-year deal with him. So he's getting $7.7 million this year to shore up third base for him. But he was subject of trade rumors all off season. A lot of people didn't think he'd be here come spring training, but lo and behold, he's down in Florida. So
yeah, Royals were looking at kicking the tires on Baum to see what they could get, because they're not particularly excited about if Weimaraner due at third. I'm blanking.
For the Royals?
Garcia is probably not a real solution. He could be, but he's just never taking that step forward. And so a lot of people were saying maybe they would go after Baum because that would be a substantial upgrade.
Baum was one of those. He was kind of they were looking at for off-season teams that needed a third base. There's Arenado, there's Bregman, and just Baum was one of the others. Like, well, maybe we can get him. But Philly, I think, just decided that we're not going to mess with it. We're going to lock him in. We know who he is. We know what his strengths are. We'll put him in the lineup. So they kept him.
Royals are not spending $8 million for a year on a third baseman. That's
exactly right.
So,
yep. So I think it's just knowing what you have there. But then Bryson Stott's going to round out their projected starters at second base. So he had a pretty good year 2 years ago. It was a big reason they had a run in the playoffs. But last year just did not play well. Allegedly, he had a hurt elbow, which is why he didn't do that well. But he has a good glove. He's good speed. He's fast. And if that's your worst player in your offense, you're doing all right. So I think they're going to have a pretty strong starting nine, again, with 2 MVP-type caliber players. And then you got a big bopper in the middle with Schwarber. Baum can hit him out. Kepler is not the worst. Real Muto is still going to be pretty solid, especially calling games behind the plate, because that leads me into the strength of this team. They are
100%.
They have amazing pitching. So it's just they start off with Zach Wheeler. So he's the ace of the staff, got second in the National League Cy Young last year to Chris Sale. Awesome. He's just going to give you something every single game. He's going to keep you in the game. So last year, 16-7, 2.56 ERA, 0.95 WHIP, 224 Ks to 52 walks. So that's what you're talking elite. So that's where they start. The next guy that's really good, Aaron Nola. He's been there for a long time. 31 years old, hasn't missed a start since 2017. I didn't realize that until I started looking into there. I was like, holy crap, he's gone like 7 straight seasons without missing anything.
That's very desirable from any staffs, constantly battling injury stuff, and to have a guy that durable and that consistent is great. I didn't realize
absolutely. And he's like, there's guys out there that do it, and we call them innings eaters. Aaron Nola is at least a good innings eater. So he's going to be on the top side average. Last year, 14-8, 3.57 ERA, 197 Ks. Awesome. So that's where they start, and that's where they put all their money into those two. But they have actually really good backups after that. So their 2, 3, 4, or 3, 4, and 5 are just as reliable, arguably. So Christopher Sanchez, left-handed pitcher, he's 28. Good stuff. They signed him for a 4-year extension this year, $22.5 million. So they didn't have to even spend that much, which is good for them. And he's done very well. He'll be a good part of that. Their other they got a lot of lefties. So Ranger Suarez, he did a 1-year arbitration deal, $8.8 million, but he'll be a free agent next year, and I think he'll be off the team. So they got to keep this staff together one more time. But last year he was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. So he had a really, really good 16 start, 10-2, 183 ERA in the first half, and then he battled through some nagging injuries, and it was a 6.54 ERA down to last 11 starts. So he really kind of crumbled going into August and September. And they needed him. That's one reason they did not have a good showing in the playoffs. Then last but not least is their projected 5th starter is Jesus Luzardo. So he was a former top prospect for the Marlins organization, and kind of another deal. He kept getting hurt and not really staying on the field often enough. But when he did, his 2023 season was 178 innings, 208 Ks, 55 walks with 3.58 ERA. That's what they're wanting to get. They're hoping they get that guy, not the one that was kind of hurt last year with a 12-start, 66 innings season. So if he can be healthy and well, that is a really, really good number 5, because for the Marlins, he was their number 2. So if that's their 5th starter, they're doing all right. And then because why not just keep getting enough of a good thing, their number 1 prospect for the team is Andrew Painter. So he's Major League Baseball's number 8 overall. And frankly, he's been in the top 5 for season after season. He's kept getting hurt, but he's finally healthy. He's finally ready to rock and roll. And if anybody goes down, they're not going to miss a beat. I mean, Sans, Wheeler, and Nola, he's going to easily fill in for 3, 4, 5 and be kind of a lights out prospect. But you guys have anything on Andrew Painter? I mean, I got some more on him, but
I've heard a lot of talk, but it's always fizzled out because he can't stay healthy. So
that's exactly
we'll
right.
see.
Yep. So hopefully he stays healthy. Just for baseball itself, it's always nice to have like guys come and just be awesome. So we transition to the bullpen. This is where, if there is kind of concerned, this is where I think the team is struggle. Jordan Romano he's an all-star closer. He's a 2-time all-star. He's not that old, but he's just hurt last year. And the problem is he was hurt with elbow issues, and it was concerning enough that the Blue Jays just non-tendered him. And he was their closer for the last couple of years going to the playoffs. And the other issue is he hasn't pitched since May 29th. So he got hurt early in the season last year and just never came back. And having that guy on my fantasy roster last year, that kind of hurt because he's always like, oh, he'll be back in a couple weeks. Oh, he'll be back in a couple weeks. Nope, he's going to miss the whole season. So it's a very risky with high upside because Jordan Romano is a beast closer. So he had a high whip or a low whip, high K to walk ratio. An excellent closer if he's healthy. It's just that's the key, right? So who knows? They do have 2 really good setup guys. Ryan Kirkering, so he's a right-handed 23-year-older. He's a rookie last year, so it's to be his second year. And last year they trusted him enough to put him in a ton of high-leverage situations. So he's 63 innings, 2.29 ERA, 109 WHIP, 74 Ks to 17 walks. So he delivered in the setup role last year, but this year he is probably first up if Jordan Romano ends up being hurt and not looking good, which absolutely could be a thing. I could see that happening for sure. So on your radar, please keep Orion Kirkering there as a potential closer for those fantasy teams out there. The other guy that's a pretty good setup guy for him is Matthew Strom. So 33-year-old left-hander out of the bullpen. Again, another great stat line, 63 innings, 187 ERA, 0.75 whip, 79 to 11 K to walk ratio. So those are their main 3 dudes in the bullpen to look at this year, and really the only 3 from a fantasy perspective to look at. The rest of them kind of they're not bad guys. We'll see how they do. Taijuan Walker, Tanner Banks, Joe Ross. Those are kind of some dudes that'll get some play, but whatever. They're just dudes right now. So
what are the Philadelphia keys to success this year, Dex? You kind of been through their lineup, I think you kind of alluded to it, but
yeah, I mean they're going to be.
What do they need to do this year?
Stay healthy in their main guys, so their stars need to stay healthy and upright. If Trey Turner, I mean, he can't miss a quarter of a season, and it's just he's got to be healthy. Bryce Harper, same thing, and they got to really hope they strike lightning with Kepler because they don't really have much help in the outfield. Their outfield's pretty weak in the grand scheme. So Castellanos, Kepler, and Marsh, they're all average. I would not be like super excited if I'm like, oh yeah, man, I got Castellanos. Oh yeah, Brandon Marsh. But they play capable D, so Marsh and Kepler are going to basically cover 2/3, like more than 3/4 of the outfield, really, because Castellanos isn't going to cover that much. But that's kind of what they got to do. And then their pitching has to just be what it's going to be. I think they're going to be the team to beat in the East again, even with the Mets, but we'll talk about them later. I think they're going to be a tough out, and they're hungry. They know this is the last year this roster will be like this. It's the last time they will have a shot like this.
That's what I heard you say.
They don't have enough youth to do it.
Yeah. So just for clarity's sake, Fangraphs has them projected at 87 wins right now. Pacoda has them at 85.3 wins. FanDuel has the over-under at 91.5.
Whew, that's a lot.
Where's John Dexter at?
So I think the East is going to be tougher. Do I think they can get it? Yeah, but I think they're going to be probably, 90. It's just they're going to be right hovering at that 90. I just don't know if they're going to go way above it. Everything's going to have to go exactly how they want it to go. And I don't know if Brandon Stott's going to bounce back. JT Realmuto is going the wrong direction. Kepler, not so sure. Bomb's too inconsistent. Castellanos is too old. They got some holes, but can they get enough each game with that pitching? Yeah, because some of those dudes will run into a ball and you'll win the game 3-2. The bullpen concerns me with Romano, but I think they at least have some depth with Orion Kirkering and Matt Strom. I think they'll be able to close games no matter what. But that's kind of the main deal is their pitching's going to carry them. Their lineup needs to stay vertical because they're a veteran team. I mean, opposite of the A's, which we talked about earlier on a previous episode, you don't see 20s in this lineup. We got 30,
Right.
31, 32, 32, 33.
Right.
They are aging. And
That's-
so it's kind of
that's
like their
where
last
I-
hurrah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought you were gonna to lead with. Really, is that was the thing that jumped out at me is all the veterans on this team. It's like they've assembled this high dollar lineup at one more shot here before it's all. I mean, they're kind of putting all their eggs in this basket for 2025, saying if we're going to do it, it's got to be now.
5%. They're 5% or 5th percentile. Like they could be a 100-win team, right? Everything breaks perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But everything that we've looked at and that you've talked about, that 91.5 feels inflated.
It does.
I still think they're a playoff team, and I think they're going to have mid to even high 80s.
Yep.
And that usually will win a division as long as you're not in the NL West. So I everything I've seen says I would fade that 91.5, and I wouldn't doubt there's some more stuff that happens to fade that myself.
Yep, that's where I'm at. So that wraps up our take on the Philadelphia Phillies. But we'll have some more teams coming up. If you want to take us out, Prue.
all right. Yep. Thanks for joining us. We'll continue this series in more episodes. Our plan is to put these out team by team, so and with named accordingly. So if you're strictly a one team type fan, by all means go find the episode that applies to your team. Give us your thoughts on how we did, how you would break down your team this spring, and hopefully you learn something and maybe teach us something too. So with that, we'll wrap up Philadelphia. We'll be back next time. Thanks, y'all.